Gojo Satoru never had a teacher. He was simply too powerful for anyone to teach him, and that's exactly what made him the loneliest person in the world. But what if there was someone above him, not an enemy? Yuji Itadori, now an old man from the future, travels back in time for one reason: to train a young Gojo. That single change turns the entire Jujutsu Kaisen timeline upside down, and the price paid at the end might leave you thinking about it long after this story is over. In this timeline, Yuji survived the Shibuya incident. He lived on. He watched Nobara recover, rebuilt the Jujutsu world alongside Megumi, Yuta, and the next generation, and kept moving forward. He lived into his 70s, long enough to watch his students grow old, but also long enough to regret one thing. He never truly got close to Gojo. They were teacher and student, nothing more. Then, on the final night of his life, the ancient cursed energy sleeping deep inside him suddenly stirred. Without warning, the space around him twisted. It didn't hurt. It felt more like time itself was being dragged backward. When Yuji opened his eyes again, he found himself standing inside a traditional Japanese estate. From a heavily guarded room came the cry of a newborn baby, and Yuji recognized that cursed energy instantly. He had felt it once before from afar, back when Gojo stood alone protecting Shibuya. The baby had just been born, and in that moment, Yuji realized the impossible. He had returned to the day Gojo Satoru was born. In this era, Yuji was nobody. No clan name, no school records, no recommendations, nothing. But he knew exactly how badly this story would end if history stayed on its original course. So he went straight to the head of the Gojo clan and made a request. When the heir came of age, Yuji wanted the right to train him. The clan head laughed, then offered what he considered a fair challenge: defeat the strongest clan guardian first. Only then would the request be considered. The guardian possessed a copying technique that allowed him to mimic attack patterns after seeing them only once. Everyone expected the fight to end quickly, and it did, just not the way they expected. Yuji's seemingly ordinary cursed energy exploded with overwhelming force. One punch, one impact. The Guardian crashed into the ground and never got back up. The clan head's expression changed immediately, and from that day on, the nameless outsider became the personal teacher of the boy, destined to become the strongest sorcerer in history. Young Gojo was brilliant, restless, and already aware that he was different from everyone else. With the 6 eyes, every person in the world seemed transparent to him. He could see cursed energy on a level nobody else could comprehend. Then he met Yuji. For the first time in his life, he encountered someone stronger, someone calmer, someone completely unthreatened by his existence. Whenever Gojo tried to read Yuji's power, all he saw was emptiness, quiet, heavy, impossible to understand. The truth was that decades of experience combined with the remnants of Sukuna's cursed energy had allowed Yuji to continuously distort the space around his own energy through a perfected form of divergent fist. And that was when Gojo's arrogance cracked. For the first time, he realized something. Above the sky he thought was empty, there was another sky. Its name was Yuji Itadori. Yuji couldn't teach Limitless directly. He didn't possess the technique himself, but he knew where the path led. He allowed Gojo to fail, again and again. He pushed him to discover the answers instead of handing them over. As a result, Gojo mastered Limitless far earlier than he did in the original timeline. Not because someone explained it to him, because someone guided him toward discovering it himself. But the most important thing wasn't any technique. For the first time in his life, Gojo learned how to listen to other people. Yuji intentionally pushed Gojo toward Jujutsu High instead of training him in isolation forever, because that's where he would meet Suguru Geto. Yuji knew how important that friendship would become, and this time, he intended to be there when it happened. Thanks to the Gojo clan's recommendation, Yuji became a guest instructor. Gojo and Geto's first meeting unfolded much like it originally had. 2 teenagers who completed each other. One made this chaotic world feel worth laughing at. The other made it feel worth protecting, but Yuji pushed both of them harder than any teacher before him. Gojo mastered Reverse Curse Technique and Hollow Purple earlier than ever. Not wanting to fall behind, Geto also learned Reverse Curse Technique. His collection of cursed spirits grew faster, stronger, more diverse. The mission that shattered Gojo in the original timeline, the encounter with Toji Fushiguro, played out very differently here. This wasn't a teenage Gojo still searching for his limits. This was a Gojo trained by someone who already knew exactly where those limits were. Toji was still incredible. Perfect physical ability, ruthless tactics, a strategy built around exhausting his opponents. But that strategy only worked if Gojo got tired first. When Toji moved to pierce Limitless with the inverted Spear of Heaven, Gojo was already in position. Hollow Purple fired. Toji fell before landing a single meaningful blow. With the greatest threat gone, Riko Amanai made a different choice. Instead of becoming Tengen's vessel, she chose to live as an ordinary human. The mission ended successfully, without the tragedy that once broke Gojo. But Yuji already knew something important. Saving Riko wouldn't erase Kenjaku. The system was still rotten, and Kenjaku quickly noticed that Gojo was developing far too quickly, so he moved sooner than expected. He understood that Suguru Geto was the key to everything. Through political manipulation within the Jujutsu world, Geto was lured into an isolated mission, a trap. Before anyone could save him, his body was crippled, and his soul was sealed away. All for one purpose: to steal cursed spirit manipulation. Geto never became evil by choice. His body was taken, turned into a new home for Kenjaku. Years passed. Yuta Okotsu arrived at Jujutsu High with Rika. He found friends, and he was trained directly by Gojo. A Gojo who was still arrogant in his own way, but now possessed patience. A Gojo capable of building real connections, all because of the foundation Yuji had planted years earlier. When the night parade of 100 demons began, Gojo wasn't facing a friend who had gone bad. He was facing his friend's stolen body, a weapon controlled by Kenjaku. Yuji urged him to finish this once and for all, to free Geto's trapped soul. The battle was brutal, painful, heartbreaking, but with unwavering resolve, Gojo unleashed his domain and ended the fight quickly, finally freeing his best friend from years of suffering. Yet amid the smoke and destruction, a badly wounded Kenjaku escaped, carrying what remained, a necessary sacrifice to keep history moving toward the future Yuji had calculated. A year later, following Yuji's advice, Gojo began collecting Sukuna's fingers whenever they surfaced. He refused to let them pile up, because Yuji knew exactly what would happen otherwise. One day, a teenager named Yuji Itadori would find one and eat it. So when a curse attacked the occult club at Sugisawa High School, Gojo was already there. The threat was eliminated before anyone touched the finger. Young Yuji survived, never becoming Sukuna's vessel, never carrying a countdown to his own death, never inheriting that tragic destiny. Gojo looked at the pink-haired teenager. Something about him felt familiar, like a story he'd heard long ago. Yuji had once told him the truth. That boy would have become him, and he had asked Gojo to protect him. So this version of Yuji grew into an ordinary sorcerer, strong, but free from Sukuna's burden. Eventually, Kenjaku ran out of patience. The prison realm plan failed. This Gojo was too cautious. So, during the goodwill event between the schools, Kenjaku unleashed every disaster-class curse he had available. A massive distraction. While Gojo fought on the battlefield, Kenjaku infiltrated the storage facility holding Sukuna's fingers. He stole all 20, then cornered the younger Yuji, and forced every finger down his throat. Gojo arrived too late. The festival grounds were already in ruins, and the Sukuna that emerged wasn't the incomplete version anyone knew. This was 20-Finger Sukuna, the fully realized king of curses from the Heian era, a form beyond anything future Yuji had ever witnessed. Gojo didn't hesitate. He moved out of pure rage, destroying everything between himself and Sukuna. The clash between two beings at the absolute peak of cursed energy devastated entire city blocks. Domains collided. Reality itself trembled. For the first time in 1,000 years, Sukuna smiled. He had finally found an opponent who could entertain him. But Gojo didn't care. He was there for one reason: to save his student and end Sukuna forever. As Sukuna expanded his domain once more to turn the battle around, an unexpected figure appeared behind him. Old Yuji. Sukuna turned, and for the first time, his eyes widened. He sensed something familiar, something terrifying. The lingering essence of shrine perfectly fused with a human soul. Sukuna snarled. This old man had to be from the future. But before he could strike, Yuji placed a hand on Sukuna's head. Using the last fragments of his cracking soul, he activated Shrine Inward, directly against Sukuna's soul. A miniature domain battle erupted inside the vessel. Old Yuji grabbed hold of Sukuna's consciousness and held him in place from within. That brief opening allowed the younger Yuji to reclaim control of his body, just for a few seconds. The disruption shattered Sukuna's domain. At the exact moment, Gojo unleashed a maximum output Hollow Purple. Without the protection of his domain, Sukuna was obliterated, forever. But victory came with a cost. The younger Yuji died alongside the vessel that contained Sukuna. Gojo stood among the ruins, slowly piecing everything together. Then he looked toward his mentor. Old Yuji's body was fading, turning into particles of light carried away by the wind. Not because he was injured, but because the timeline that created him no longer existed. The younger Yuji, who should have grown into him, was gone before his story ever began. Old Yuji vanished without recognition, without thanks, without anyone left to remember where he came from. The only thing that remained was the quiet satisfaction in his final smile. He had succeeded. He had given Gojo Satoru a future where he was no longer the loneliest person standing at the top of the world. Would you erase yourself from history to save Gojo's future? Was old Yuji's sacrifice worth it? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out more what-if stories. See you in the next one.